First tonight, a former ISIS bride's TV apology has provoked an angry reaction from the families of those who died in the Manchester arena bombing.
Shamima Begum was 15 when she ran away to Syria to join the terrorist group Islamic State. Now aged 22 and speaking from a refugee camp, she appealed for forgiveness from the relatives of the 22 people killed after she'd previously tried to justify the attack.
But the families have responded, saying she's still a terrorist and still a risk. Our correspondent, Amy Welch, has this report.
She was the ISIS bride who said the Manchester arena terror attack was justified.
It's a two-way thing, really, because women and children are being killed back in the Islamic State right now. And it's kind of retaliation. Like, their justification was that it was retaliation, so I thought, OK, that is a fair justification.
Speaking from a Syrian refugee camp with new nails and Western clothes, Shamima Begum wants to convince the world she's a changed woman who regrets what she said.
I don't think that women and children should be being killed for other people's, motives and for other people's agendas. I did not know about the Manchester bombing when I was asked. I did not know that people were killed. I did not know that women and children were hurt because of it. So I was just speaking without knowing fully what I was talking about.
But for the families of the 22, the fact she was even given airtime is an insult.
22 now, the same age as my eldest daughter that hasn't had a mum through ISIS for the last 4.5 years. She's evil for joining, she's evil now, and if she gets back, how do we know that this isn't a scheme?
Steve Howe lost his wife Alison and told me Shamima Begum should never be allowed back in the UK.
Let's leave her where she is and let's ignore the makeup, the pink nails and the American baseball cap, and let's leave her to rot in that camp with all her mates.
The mother of Liam Curry took to social media describing Shamima Begum as a murderer, while the sister of Kelly Brewster tweeted that anyone who supports ISIS is a terrorist and a threat to civilians. And former Home Secretary Sajid Javid today stood by his decision, stripping her of her British citizenship.
When I saw what I did and the information that I received from my advisors, from our intelligence agencies, it was in the end, it turned out for me, it was a very clear-cut decision.
But one human rights lawyer says she deserves a fair trial.
She is no longer that 15-year-old who was susceptible to all the grooming and the empty promises that were made to her. And she needs now to be given the opportunity to return to her country.
I am asking the British people to forgive me because I made a mistake at a very young age. And I know it's very hard for the British people to try and forgive me. I also have lost loved ones because of ISIS, so I can sympathise with them.
She has now apologised. She's asked for the British public's forgiveness. Does she get your forgiveness, Steve?
I'll never forgive her. I'll never forgive anybody for what happened to Alison.
Shamima Begum wants to return to clear her name, even offering to help the UK in its fight against terrorism. But while she's regarded as a security risk herself, the chances of that becoming reality are slim.
And Amy's here now, and it's fair to say, Amy, there's not a lot of sympathy, is there, for Shamima Begum, and even some anger that she's been given airtime.
That's right. A number of people have contacted us to ask why ITV News has allowed her the chance to speak, and it is a fair question. It's a balancing act that organisations like ourselves face every day. There are many people who believe she has forfeited the right to return and doesn't deserve to be heard. But of course, there is another point of view, and it is our job to reflect all viewpoints, all positions. So on balance, we have decided that it is a story that needs telling, and certainly if she were to return to the UK, that would be a story that we would also need to reflect.
And then we've had hundreds of responses on social media. You've got some of them there.
That's right, Gamal. Francesca tweeted, "I can't believe anyone is entertaining the idea of her coming back. This would be a massive kick in the face to anyone who's lost someone to terrorism in this country." Annabelle Freeman Fielding said, "Leave her where she is. she's not an innocent victim. And it's fair to say the vast majority of people who've contacted us have been very hostile to the idea of her being allowed to return to the UK. But on the other side, some people do think she might be able to help in that fight against terrorism. Tony Williams tweeted, "People have missed a vital point. She said she would name names and give information on ISIS we may not already have, so it could be in our interest to bring her back." And Michelle O'Hara makes a different point. She says, "We accept that our children can be groomed for sex, so why not terrorism? Having been 15 once, I know I could just as easily have followed the wrong path." So there is overwhelming opposition to her coming home, but opinion is divided.
It certainly is. OK, Amy, thank you.
Yes, and thank you for all your views. We really value your opinions, and it goes without saying we'll bring you all the updates we get on this story.
Well, next tonight, and campaigners from the North West are heading to London tomorrow, ready to urge the government and the new Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, to end what they say are huge injustices in the leasehold system.
Yes, he has to tackle the issue of homes being bought under leasehold, which are essentially long-term tenancies. Buyers can be hit with rapidly rising ground rents.
A new law going through Parliament will put an end to ground rents for new leasehold homes, but people already stuck with skyrocketing costs say they've been left behind. Our political correspondent, Leisha Manali, has this report.
Joe Derbyshire's family bought their dream home and started living a nightmare when the freehold, the land their house was built on, was sold on without their knowledge.
We bought the house in 2010, and at the time we were told that the ground rent would double every 10 years, but that we could buy the freehold at any point in time for £5,000. What they didn't tell us was that they'd planned to sell the freehold on, and that when that happened, the cost to buy the freehold went from £5,000 to £30,000. You go through a range of emotions. You feel physically sick, you feel angry, cheated.
It left Joe with few ways to escape having to pay ground rent to the freeholder, which started at £295 a year and then doubled to £590.
It's money for nothing. Ground rent is not money for a service, it's just money for nothing. And when you start to project it forward, it would be £9,440 once it's doubled 5 times. It's just greed. That's all it is. It's absolute greed, creating an asset class on your home.
Do you feel like you are a homeowner?
I don't own my home. I don't own one brick, and that's what leasehold is. All you own is the right to live in the property for the term of the lease. If you have to ask somebody for permission to knock a wall down or change the colour of your front door, then it isn't really your home, is it?
Ground rents, like Joe's, make up the vast majority of house sales in some areas, and buyers in the North West could be especially hard hit. Data from 2019 revealed the top 10 constituencies for leasehold sales. All of them are in our region. The government wants to do something about this. A change in the law is currently going through Parliament, which aims to abolish ground rent for long residential leaseholds. But if passed, it would only apply to homes sold in the future and does nothing for people like Joe. The Shadow Housing Minister and Weaver Vale MP isn't happy. He wants to bring forward an amendment which ends existing ground rents for everyone.
It's about the many and not just the new. It's a case of justice. I mean, the leasehold system is something from the Middle Ages, quite literally, where you've got leaseholders are in serfdom. They want to look forward to the future without this stress and astronomical unfair costs being levied upon them.
Joe's developer says they volunteered to convert her ground rent at their own cost, so it's measured against inflation. They added, "We are very sorry about the difficulties some of our customers have faced as a result of their 10-year doubling lease terms, and we have taken decisive and proactive action to put it right." It means the cost of buying the freehold is finally within Joe's reach. But she's not just worried about her own future, helping to run a campaign group for others who feel caught in a leasehold trap.
You're speaking to thousands of people affected by this. What impact is it having on them?
For some of them, we have had people in the group who have said that they're feeling suicidal, and talked to them. I've been on the phone to people who've been in tears, just can't cope. So it's horrific.
Tomorrow, Jo and her fellow campaigners will gather in front of Parliament, urging the government to act on all things leasehold, from ground rents to cladding costs. Their hope is it will help keep the heat on the movement that could see the biggest property reform in a generation. Leisha McNally, ITV News, Bolton.
And we'll be following those developments closely. In a statement, the government said the bill going through Parliament at the moment will protect future leaseholders while work is going on to secure agreements with developers to remove doubling ground rents for people already affected.
In other news, councillors in Cheshire have voted to suspend trail hunting on council-owned land. The practice uses scent instead of a live animal to recreate a traditional fox hunt. Animal rights campaigners have said while it's legal, it can still lead to foxes being killed by dogs. Cheshire West and Chester Council temporarily halted trail hunting and will now hold a public consultation.
Former Liverpool player Jamie Carragher is supporting an appeal for a new neonatal intensive care unit at Alderhay Children's Hospital. The new unit will have 22 cots and 18 family rooms where parents can be with their poorly newborns. The hospital needs to raise £2.5 million.
And you might remember a few weeks ago we chatted to a teenager from Blackburn who'd bossed around the 51 cities of England to raise money for a cause very close to his heart. 16-year-old Jacob Reddy, with his trusty guitar, was raising money for Darien House Children's Hospice in Chorley, where his brother Joseph was cared for in his final days. Darien House want to say thank you to everyone who supported Jacob and helped him raise a whopping £9,043.50. Jacob's there with his mum and dad, who are proud to bits. Here's what's coming up on the ITV News at 6:30 with Chris.
We'll have all the latest on who's been sacked and who's been shuffled in Boris Johnson's cabinet. Gavin Williamson is expelled from education while Dominic Raab loses his foreign secretary role but is now deputy prime minister. Also, Shamima Begum, the London schoolgirl who joined IS, tells ITV Britain should forgive her. And we join the crowds heading back onto Broadway. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Well, next, to a subject that for tens of thousands of people across our region goes right to the heart of who they are and how they want others to see them.
Yes, we're talking about Afro hair, and for many years, women of colour in particular have felt pressure to change their natural hair to meet social norms or expectations at work.
Well, 5 years ago today, the first ever World Afro Day took place, a celebration of Afro hair with an important message.
Our reporter Lucille Brobby's been talking to 3 generations of one family from Manchester about what the global movement means to them.
Today is World Afro Day, an occasion celebrating the Afro as part of culture and identity. I'm here at a salon in Manchester with Heather, Lachey and Danielle. 3 generations answering questions and statements all about their hair. What is your first memory of your hair?
I was about 5 years old and I'd have like single twists and I'd have those really hard bobbles that we used to have on the end of our twists, and they would look like rattle when you were walking and slides on the end.
My earliest memory is my sisters cursing me for having to comb my hair, and I think they used to purposely plait my hair the way I didn't like it.
My first memory of my hair was just going to school with like a massive puff like on the top of my head and everyone kept trying to touch it. But I also had those like rattly bobbles sometimes depending on the hairstyle my mum did.
I was taught by my parents to love my hair.
So no, I wasn't taught to love my hair in its natural state back then. However, as I've gotten older and I've started to embrace my natural hair, my mum started to embrace her natural hair. Obviously, Lachey, we've got to set the standard for Lachey as well.
That's truth. It is truth. It was the easiest. What was easy? So relaxing it was easy as far as I was concerned. My hair was relaxed. Relax her hair. Then you didn't have to plait it all the time and what have you. It was just put it in a bobble or a ponytail or whatever and go.
My mum always taught me to love my hair, even though she couldn't really do it to begin with, and like she used to like struggle with braiding it. She finally got there, and even though it was a pain for me to sit there and wait for it to do it, I ended up loving it.
The natural hair movement encourages black men and women to embrace their natural Afro textured hair.
It became popular in the 1960s during the civil rights movement and became even more popular again in the 2000s. With more people embracing their natural hair, products such as these have become even more important. I would feel comfortable wearing my afro to work.
When I went for my job interview at the time, I deliberately changed my hair because I knew I was going for an interview. So yeah, I have changed my hair to make people feel more comfortable, unfortunately.
Although there are no laws prohibiting afros in the workplace, many still fear employers will view the style as unprofessional.
I wear it for me. I am professional. Like I say, people make comments, however, I wear it however I wear it.
I remember when I went to school once with my hair out and then people kept trying to touch me or say I looked like I got attacked by a hairdryer, and that was just too much for me to deal with. So ever since then I've just never done it again because I just didn't really have the time for people pointing at me, talking about me. It just really wasn't worth it. Well, I feel like once I leave school I'll be able to fully embrace my natural hair.
This hair salon in Manchester says in the last decade more clients are embracing their natural hair.
We hardly do any chemical procedures anymore. A lot of the clients that used to have weaves or relaxers, perms, they've gone natural, they have braids.
Views on natural hair might vary in the black community, but Lachey thinks her generation is more comfortable with their fros.
We have more knowledge now because we have the products, we have the styles, we have the accessories, and we can pull it off.
I'm pretty sure Lachey's family will have something to say about that. Leasehold, ITV News.
To a cafe where there is so much more than coffee and tea on offer. Once a week, people living with dementia and their carers can go to one of Manchester's finest buildings and be part of an orchestra.
Yeah, Manchester Cameratas say they want to make music that makes a real difference. As our correspondent Anne O'Connor has been finding out, they're doing just that.
In the grandeur of Gorton Monastery, Manchester Camerata in the Community Orchestra provides company and clarity in the confused lives of people with dementia and people who care for them. Like Ted Hennessy, who married his late wife Constance here in 1966. Mourning her death in 2018, he was diagnosed with vascular dementia a year later.
Absolutely loves it. Like I say, we had a delay this morning, and he was like a schoolboy, are we going? Are we going? I actually asked if I could video, and I've videoed some of it my dad and the music, and sent it to some of my friends, and they were saying it was so touching, and it's just brought him out.
And it's not just therapy for the visitors.
I think after the years we've had, the best part is actually leaving the house and playing some music with people and to people. It's a conversation, really, because you're playing to an audience and you can see whether they're enjoying it or not enjoying it, and it's not just simply playing notes.
The new cafe is part of almost 10 years of work with people with dementia. It is simple, effective, and often magical.
Get out of my mouth. I look for you, right out of line. Better run, you're much too young.
It's a huge part of what we need as human beings, I think, just to be around others, and even to sit with no pressure to speak or to tell your life story, but to just engage, in the moment.
When we leave, Ryan is on his feet dancing. Across the floor, a couple have joined him while the band plays on.
Our purpose is to make music that really matters to people, and music that can make change.
It is all that. A lightening of the load, a song to sing. Anne O'Connor, ITV News, Gorton Monastery.
My favourite piece of the day. How wonderful.
Goes to show how important music is to the mind and to the body.
Now, is there where there's something to sing about? Here's Joe.
That sunshine really made your eyeshadow pop, And you put the wipe in the bin, not the toilet.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Go ahead, Queen.
Hello, a very good evening to you. Some lovely sunshine across the region today, and the good news is there's more to come tomorrow. Much like today, we'll be waking up to a few pretty mist patches in the valleys and perhaps a bit of fog here and there, and that will clear. Things will brighten up. It'll be a dry, fine day. During Friday, cloud will build. A system moves in from the west, bringing a spell of rain for western parts of our region, and the weekend does look more unsettled weather-wise. Low pressure gradually edging in from the Atlantic as we head through certainly tomorrow night and into Friday, where a front will stall in the west of our region for a time before gradually migrating eastwards, introducing more cloud and, yes, a little bit of rain to end the week. But back to this evening, it's very quiet and settled out there. Bits and pieces of patchy rain or drizzle, perhaps out of thicker cloud as we go through the night tonight. But generally dry conditions, some mistiness, a few fog patches, quite a warm night to come, 13 or 14 Celsius, with a gentle breeze around as we go into tomorrow, when the sun will be up at 6:45, setting at 7:25 tomorrow evening. So tomorrow then, once any mist or fog lifts, mainly dry conditions, some patchy rain around perhaps very first off, and then brightening up. There will be more cloud for parts of Cheshire, Derbyshire perhaps during the day tomorrow, but for the rest of us, another fine day with some lovely warm spells of sunshine, a gentle breeze, and temperatures again similar to today, up to around 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. Looking ahead to the rest of the week, becoming a bit more unsettled with that rain moving in from the west during Friday. The weekend certainly looking cooler and a bit more changeable.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Those eyebrows are unreal.
And that's about it for tonight's programme.
Tomorrow we're looking ahead to the Isle of Man elections taking place later this month and finding out what issues matter to people there.
And a special report on some of the hazards women joggers face while out on a run. Join us for that and lots more if you can. Have a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.